Hey there, I'm Jennifer Houghton, and in this video I'm going to show you some modifications for common yoga poses because we're not all the same. There's no such thing as a yoga mannequin. We're not all meant to look exactly the same in every yoga pose, as there's so many people out there who've got stuff going on in their ankles, their knees, their hips, their back, their shoulders, their wrists, just about everywhere. And yoga is meant to meet us where we are, not the other way around. So I'm going to start with knees. If you've got issues in your knees, if they're troublesome, like I have one knee that can't take pressure, the other knee is fine with it. So when you come into positions like a cat and cow, instead of coming down onto your knees, you can put your hands on a chair. That works really well. The other thing that you can use a chair for modifications for is downward dog. If your arms or your legs can't tolerate all the weight and the pressure of downward dog, you can put your hands on a chair, or even a lower prop would work as well. So downward dog, you're going to come up onto your heels, lift your hips up into the air, bring your head down between your shoulders, and get a really yummy stretch in your back. And this is chair dog. Lunges can be troublesome for knees too, so a chair beside you will help with support. When you come into any of the warrior poses, you want to make sure that your front shin is straight up and down, as opposed to having your kneecap jutting out over your toes. You want to keep that front shin straight up and down, and that'll take the pressure off that front kneecap. And then if you need the support when you're in any kind of the warrior poses, you can use a chair, and you can put it on either side, whatever gives you the best proppage. It's probably not a good idea to put it in front, because that's going to cause you to lean forward and do kind of crazy things in your back and your knee. So any of the warrior poses, you can do them one arm, whatever works for you. Give yourself the propping that you need. Some other poses that can be troublesome for the knees are these kneeling poses, like hero pose. Some knees just cannot tolerate this intense of a bend, and that's okay. You don't have to make your knees do it. It's important that the knees stay healthy. If you've ever had a knee issue, you know how troublesome it is when your knee is out. So instead of doing like a full hero pose, which might look like this, or a camel pose, which might look something like this, or people will take it back further for camel as well. The deeper hero, people take their bodies further back. So you can get that same quadricep stretch by using a strap, and you would do this in a standing position. Wrap that strap around your ankle and come on into the common quadricep stretch. You can hold a support if your balance isn't that great. Take your hand on and off until your balance gets better. If you can reach the ankle, you could do it that way as well. But that's not a requirement. You're still going to get a nice stretch in your quadriceps by doing this with the strap, and the knee doesn't have to be bent so much. The other option for a good quadricep stretch is to put a prop behind yourself and to put that foot onto the prop. Again, you want to make sure that the supporting leg isn't bent so much that your knee is jutting forward over your toes. The other awesome thing about this stretch right here is it's going to stretch the front of your ankle. And that can be a troublesome thing too in hero, and it can also be troublesome in child's pose. So in child's pose, we're expected to look something like this. But if your ankles are not flexible enough to handle this, it can be quite painful. So there's a few options. You could choose to curl your toes under. That might give some relief. It takes the straightening out of the front of your ankle. You could also grab a rolled up towel and put that under your ankles to give yourself as much support as you need there. So maybe that's what you need to make your child's pose more comfortable. Child's pose, a few other things, maybe your knees don't tolerate it, and you end up looking something like this, or like this, or like this, and it becomes anything but a relaxing pose. So you can use more props here too. So you could take a thick blanket, and you could put it on top of your calves, Find the place that feels just right and kind of lets you settle into that pose. Other modifications for child's pose, if your head doesn't reach the floor, that's okay too. You can stack your hands on top of each other and rest your head on your hands. And sometimes this is a helpful modification for people who've got neck troubles and your head needs to be supported. You could also take it down with your hands flat and rest your forehead on your hands with your hands flat. Other issues that come up for knees is whether or not your knees can tolerate the hardness of the floor. And like I said, one of my kneecaps just doesn't like a hard floor. So I like to put cushioning underneath my knees anytime I'm on my knees. And you just want to watch that the props that you're putting underneath your knees aren't lifting your hips up too high. So if you can tolerate a minimal amount of cushioning under your knees, go for the minimal amount that you can tolerate. This knee support will also help when you come into what I call the low lunge, so your back knee is on the floor. Again, front shin is straight up and down. Make sure that front knee doesn't jut out in front. And you don't have to look like a ballerina when you're doing yoga. Like I just swung through there pretty smoothly. I'm a professional. But some people are going to need to do this. Grunting is good because it means that you're breathing. Another great way to modify child's pose if your knees absolutely cannot tolerate the weight of child's pose. You're going to come onto your back and you're going to take your knees out wide and just hang out like this. Let the back of your neck lengthen and all of the compression is off your spine. You could relax into it even more if you press your bum and your feet into a wall and let the wall support you. You get a nice relaxing child's pose on your back. The other thing that works really well on your back, again, if your knees can't tolerate lunges, you'll do them on your back. So you'll extend one leg way out. This knee is going to come outside your body. This foot will come up into the air. And you wrap the strap around your foot. Keep drawing that knee down towards the floor outside your body and elongating this leg so you get the nice stretch in your hip flexors here and the stretch in your hamstrings here. And sometimes there's funky stuff going on in the wrists. So if you take a look at my wrist, you will see that this is not a 90-degree angle. And there aren't a lot of people out there who can do a full 90-degree angle in their wrists. So when we're in poses where we're holding ourselves up on the wrist, we need to be attentive of this. Forcing the wrist into an extreme angle is not good. What's stopping me here from pushing my wrist into a 90-degree angle is the bones. Bone hits bone and things stop. And that happens in every joint in the body. So for example, if you're in cat-cow and your wrists are bothering you, you can put something that's going to prop up the heels of your palms and allow your fingers to dip lower than the heels of your palms. This one also works nicely for downward dog. The other thing that works well to give your wrists release in downward dog is to put some, if you've got some handy dumbbells, you could hold on to dumbbells instead. This will also work when you're in plank. And the other thing that works nicely for wrist support is those rectangular blocks that you'll find at yoga studios. Sometimes they're foam and sometimes they're wood. I don't have any of them with me today, but they kind of look like this. So you'd have one under each hand and you would come up into a downward dog pose, for example, with the blocks under your wrists, or you would do cat and cow or plank with the blocks under your wrists. All right, and shoulders. Shoulders can be tricky. Rotator cuff is a common injury for a lot of people. And what that's going to do is it's going to prevent you from being able to bring your arms up fully overhead. And that's okay. You don't have to bring your arms up fully overhead. So one of the options, for example, in Warrior A, sometimes called Warrior 1, instead of having your arms straight up, you can bend your elbows. And the other option is to take the elbows right down so that your elbows are level with your shoulders. And I actually like this option in Warrior A because it gives a nice opening across the chest. and it doesn't cause the shoulder joints to feel closed and tight. And the other thing about shoulders is some of us just don't have the shoulders that are made to cycle from downward dog into plank and into either cobra or upward dog. And while there are a lot of people in the world whose shoulders can handle that with no problem at all, if your shoulders are feeling like they're ripping as you're going through that sequence, my suggestion is don't do it. So it would be a downward dog, from into plank, and then down into cobra or into upward dog. And for some people that's just way too much stress on the shoulder joints. So the other options are downward dog, come down onto your knees first, and then come into plank, and then come down onto your elbows, let your belly drop, and then come on up into your cobra. It's all good. Right, and more knee stuff. So sometimes sitting in a cross-legged position is impossible. And it could be because of your back, could be the hips, could be the knees. Here's your options. You can sit on something that is going to lift your hips in relation to your knees. And for many people, that will be enough. Just getting the hips higher in relation to the knees gives the knees some relief. You also could take other kinds of props and set them under the sides of your thighs so that your knees can relax. That's another option. Some of us who have got bony feet, it's painful for the bones to dig into the feet in positions like this, so you can try doubling up your mat and see if that gives relief to your feet bones. If the ankles are troublesome in this kind of a pose, you can fiddle around with towels and other props and squeeze them in there so that you feel comfortable. Let yoga meet you where you are instead of the other way around. So there's also going to be times when you want to bring the floor closer to you, such as in the spinal twist. So if you start to get into your spinal twist and you find that your legs aren't reaching the floor, you can put a prop underneath, as much proppage as you need. And sometimes you may find that those two legs don't fit together and it feels like, oh my God, it's a strain to hold it up. And you're not getting that nice stretch in the IT band, in the hip, and the sacroiliac joints. So in order to completely relax into it, if you need to, you could also put something in between your thighs and then the props will hold you up. So I hope this helped give you some ideas for how to make yoga more comfortable and more accessible to you. Yoga is not only meant for people who have perfectly functioning bodies. The rest of us can enjoy it and benefit from it as well. Take care and have a great day.